The globalists stung by the yellow jackets in France, becoming the first domino to fall. Washington Post reports the French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe announced that the French government will temporarily suspend a carbon tax plan that triggered weeks of often violent protests nationwide. They did this to help curb climate change. Now that's the narrative they're still trying to push. The government had proposed the taxes which were slated to take effect in January and were designed to wean consumers off diesel and other polluting fuels and to favor electric cars, of course using taxes for social engineering. But the price increases, well, and those taxes they represented led to social unrest unseen in recent years that quickly became a full-blown crisis.
Jordan Bardella does not look like the typical European politician, but at the age of just 23, the rising star of the French far right is top of the list of candidates for Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National for elections to the European Parliament in May. Opinion polls suggest the party, which was called the Front National when it was run by Le Pen's father Jean-Marie Le Pen, will beat that of the Liberal President Emmanuel Macron and be the most popular among all the French parties in the European vote. In an interview with the FT, Bardella said the idea was to team up with the other right-wing nationalist parties that have risen in the EU in recent years, in the UK, Italy and Eastern Europe, to try to reduce the power of the European Commission and eventually make the EU no more than a secretariat for a club of nation-states.
What's more, the anti-immigrant AfD is now the official opposition party in the Bundestag with 92 members of parliament. They deny any links with extremists, but we spoke to one extreme right-wing leader who believes that their party opens doors to his kind of views. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, the rasping voice screams. It belongs to David Köcker. He and 500 other activists marched through Kürten after the death of a 22-year-old German last weekend. The German had suffered heart failure during a brawl with 2 Afghan refugees. The 2 Afghan men are now in custody and the authorities are investigating aggravated manslaughter.
Aufzuschlagen, denn wir alle stehen in der Zeit.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who's led Germany for 13 years, has offered to step down as her party's leader and said she won't run for office again after her term ends in 2021. Her announcement came a day after her party, the Christian Democratic Union, saw a disappointing performance in a key regional election in the state of Hesse. The far-right Alternative for Germany party claimed more than a dozen seats in Hesse's parliament for the first time. The anti-immigrant party now controls seats in all 16 of Germany's state parliaments, plus the national Bundestag and European Parliament.
The British Empire and the French Republic, linked together in their cause and in their need, will defend to the death their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of their strength. We shall never surrender.
Well, thank you, Mr. Schulz. Isn't it funny? You know, when I came here 17 years ago, and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
Reading some of these latest remarks of Theresa May, who you're looking at now, she wants to quit. She's saying, all right, look, I mean, I could tell that you're not big fans, but if you just stick with me on this latest Brexit plan, a third time is the charm, she says she'll go. And that seems to be greeted favorably by many conservatives.
Dare to dream that the dawn is breaking on an independent, united kingdom.
Former President Michel Temer was arrested in Sao Paulo early on Thursday morning, and he was put on a plane to Rio, where he's going to have to testify to the federal police there. And Temer is the subject of 10 formal investigations for various corruption charges, many of them having to do with overseeing bribes or being aware of bribes before his administration. And because he was president of Brazil until this January, he was protected from investigation, but Congress would have to approve any investigation.
This is Bolsonaro's Brazil. The world's fourth largest democracy has voted on a new president. Many think he's saving the country from communism. Now this country is how I want it to be. This is not a communist country. Brazil is not a communist country. It's over, PT. It's over.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro for an official visit to the White House. Bolsonaro has been dubbed the Trump of the tropics because of the rhetoric and policies the two leaders share.
The vast majority of potential immigrants do not have good intentions or do not intend to do the best or do good to the U.S. people. I would very much like the U.S. to uphold the current immigration policy because to a large extent we owe our democracy in the Southern Hemisphere to the United States.
Involved family members of former leader Muammar Gaddafi. They were meant to secure contracts in a lucrative irrigation project. Now, Justin Trudeau's denied any inappropriate behaviour, insisting he was just trying to save jobs.
I and my staff always acted appropriately and professionally.
So we'd like you to...
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind.
The Liberals were decimated, of course, a resounding defeat, not unexpected since Kathleen Wynne conceded a week before the election.
Alberta has voted, and their vote was for change. The province that broke with tradition just 4 years ago to go NDP has now swung back to Conservative rule.
Polls analyst Eric Grenier is here with the latest numbers. Hey, Eric. So what's happening with the polls right now?
Well, we're still seeing that the Conservatives have that edge over the Liberals and that the gap between the two parties might be widening. So let's look at the latest numbers from the poll tracker, which is an aggregation of all the polls that are out there. Right now we have the Conservatives at about 37%. The Liberals are now at 31%. The New Democrats at 17%. The Greens at 8%. The Bloc at 4.5%, and the People's Party at 2%. So since the story first broke on February 7th, we've seen a big drop for the Liberals. They're down over 6 points.
The regime has interpreted America's past restraint as weakness. This would be a fatal miscalculation. This is a very different administration than the United States has had in the past.
Trump entered the White House with 108 vacancies for federal judges with life terms. That's 1/8 of the nation's 870 federal judges, more than any president since Bill Clinton.
The justices that I'm going to appoint will be pro-life. They will have a conservative bent.
President Trump's new North American trade deal is going to be adding $68.2 billion and 167,000 jobs to the economy. This is according to an independent International Trade Commission report.
We renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country.
And, O Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in Thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our united crusade.